Hello, this is KFFR Community Radio. It's time for Public Affairs for Grand County, a program dedicated to people and topics of interest, to locals and those who are interested in Grand County. I am your host, Steve Skinner. Today, I'm speaking with Steve Fitzgerald. He's the president of the board of Fraser Valley Arts. You can check out their website at fraservalleyarts.org. And they help put on the Fraser Mountain Mural Festival and the Plein Air Altitude event. Plus, I got all kinds of really fun stuff coming up and going on in the background. Hopefully soon to be in the foreground. Steve, welcome to the program.
Thank you, DJ Skin Dog.
Nice to see you.
It's great to be back.
Yeah. I wanted to, before we get into the Art Center and all that stuff, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your personal journey and your artwork. I got to see some of that amazing artwork at the Fire and Ice when you were making those killer plates and awards. And
yep, the awards.
Yeah. So, what got you into art? Where did you start, and where are you now as an artist?
Yeah, I was sort of late to my own ceramic art, which is both hand thrown and sculpted pieces and stuff. Mostly self-taught, did take some formal education when we lived in Colorado Springs, but I've been doing it now for over 20 years. Had to put it on hold for a while when my kids were growing up and my corporate career became more time-consuming. But in the last 4 or 5 years, when my wife Diana and I moved here to the Valley full-time after 20 years of being part-timers, I've now made that a much bigger part of my life. And making far more than I have before in terms of wares. Really enjoying exploring some new techniques. I do the Winter Park Alpine Art Affair every summer, and sell through a few galleries in the region. So it's been really exciting.
And you have a nice little studio at your place?
I do. One of the real thrills for me was that when we renovated our house, I was recently able to add a studio, and for the first time in my life, I have heat and water in my pottery studio, and it's pretty great.
This band XTC has this song called it's about a man needing a shed, and that's exactly what you got there. You got your own shed, and that's super awesome.
There you go.
Steve Fitzgerald, let's talk about Fraser Valley Arts. What is the purpose? What's the mission there? And when did you get started with that? When did that get going?
Yeah, Fraser Valley Arts was founded in January of 2021. So we're barely 3 years old, and it was founded for the purpose of funding, building, and then operating what we hope to be the Fraser Center for the Creative Arts in downtown Fraser. We have, in the period of those 3 years, done a few things as a means to that end. One of them is Plein Air Altitude, where we bring 25 or so artists to the Valley every year the week before Labor Day, and they paint our beautiful county. And then we sell those paintings on Saturday of Labor Day weekend at a ticketed event, which always sells out and is our major source of operating funds for the not-for-profit. And then we also have a public event on Sunday. People will see all kinds of advertising about that, including signs in the road when we get closer to it this summer. We also work with the Town of Fraser's Public Arts Committee on the Fraser Mountain Mural Festival, which is the first weekend in August this year, as it is every year, where we have 30 artists from across America who visit our community, and actually sometimes elsewhere. We've had Spaniards and Canadians in the past. And they come in over 2 days, paint an 8-foot by 8-foot mural, which are then auctioned off. And that, along with the People's Choice Award event, is another fundraiser for Fraser Valley Arts. All of those are designed to help us raise the money we need for our all-volunteer organization to fundraise for the center. Talk
about the center. Is there another community that has a center that you go, that's what we want? Where is this, the genesis of this idea? Yeah, so the genesis of the idea actually was the former mayor, Philip Vandernail, and the former town manager approached me in late 2020 and said that in roughly 2018 and 19, the community, as part of their strategic planning process, and to their credit, this strategic planning process goes back that far and is now being realized today with things like Victoria Village and the center.
they had come up with the concept and asked me if I'd be willing to form this not-for-profit and then drive it. It's not something I had done before. My corporate career was, in for-profit organizations, but I was willing to take on that challenge, and so I've been doing that at their request. Fraser Valley Arts is independent of the town. We are our own 501c3, but we work in very close coordination with them. So that was the genesis of it. We were asked to take this on, and we formed the not-for-profit, incorporated it, and then I recruited a board. We still are all volunteers. We're probably about 6 months or so away from having our first employee, but we're on the cusp of that, as we'll talk about in a bit.
And talk about any other arts organizations out there that you've seen that are...
So as part of our due diligence in getting ready for this effort, we looked across the region, really. Colorado-centric, but also in other states. And some of the best models, if you will, that we saw, the Dairy Arts Center in Boulder. There's a place called the Arts Campus at Willits in Basalt.
Sure.
Which is actually a model, and their executive director, Ryan Honey, has been incredibly helpful to us in giving us background and how to fundraise and so forth. The Carbondale Arts Center in the same region. And a couple of others. We looked at Crested Butte and a place up in Idaho were our best analogs for a relatively rural community who lacked a art center, that wanted to have a very broad and diverse offering and had to go out and fundraise for it. And all those communities were successful in eventually doing that, some very quickly. The Roaring Fork Valley, as you well know from your background, is kind of an aggregation of those types of art centers. But that's because there's also a lot of interest and wealth in that valley. We're not without interest and we're not without wealth in this valley, but at the same time, it's not Aspen.
Right.
And we're aware of that.
Right. Or Crested Butte. I mean, these communities that you're citing are definitely wealthier, definitely have maybe a deeper arts history. So you're really creating something from scratch, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and we think is really an opportunity in this valley because other than, a few things in Grand Lake, which is a pretty far distance away from this end of the valley where we're sitting, there isn't much. And in terms of a venue, there really isn't one, period, for fine arts and performing arts and things like that. So we do think that there's real opportunity here. I actually, having done an awful lot of homework over the particularly last 18 months with the help of a philanthropy organization, I'm pleasantly surprised at the number of philanthropists, wealthy individuals who are willing to do that. But I want to stress that this center is not for the, prawn sandwich, pinky out crowd. I am
with the crust removed.
Yeah, I am adamant, man, that we build a place that is a hub for the community. It is there for everybody. I want to see lift operators in the winter. I want to see our young people. My wife works at Fraser Valley Elementary, and we connect with that community as much as we can. I want to see our seniors feeling comfortable there. We're going to have studio space for people to learn, plenty of community classes, a maker space, etc., in addition to the performing arts. And it is going to be, in my mind, only successful if it is accessible to everyone. And we have every intention of taking our mission, to the community. Whether they're wealthy or not is really immaterial. We'd love to have everybody's support.
Of course, you need those wealthy people to help you build it and
there's
see
no
the
doubt
vision.
about it.
Talking to Steve Fitzgerald, president of the board of Fraser Valley Arts, talking about a center for the arts. Do you have a picture of this thing? Have you guys already drawn up a rough sketch? Or
yeah,
what's
we
it
do,
look like?
and there's a bit of an evolution. So I'll preface my comments with saying anybody who wants to see the most current vision for the Fraser Center for the Arts can go to fraservalleyarts.org, and under the About menu option, About up in the corner, you'll find a button down there that will link you to about 30 pages of conceptual drawings, floor plans, exterior views. KFFR in your Instagram announcement for this had one of those images there. We just completed that with the able help of DAO Architecture, who is one of our supporters. I will say it's a conceptual design. We had one that existed prior that many in the community will be familiar with.
Yeah.
But there's two problems with that design. One, it was for the Mural Park site. And as we'll talk about in a minute, we now have a new location for the center, which is right on the Fraser River, so we had to reconfigure the design. Two, that original conceptual design did not contemplate a performing arts space.
Yeah.
It was much more heavily oriented towards affordable housing. And with the town of Fraser being successful in securing funding and land for Victoria Village, which will be immediately adjacent to this site, and is going to be between 150 and 200 units, there's a less of a need for that in the Arts Center. And so what we've done is we've repurposed or reconfigured the concept for a new site with a performing arts center and less space available for housing. I will tell folks that what we've deliberately done there is kept it somewhat pedestrian. If we're really successful in our fundraising, we'll make it much snazzier than you'll see there. But even if we only build what you'll see, I think you'd all agree it would be pretty cool.
Steve, how big are you anticipating? How many square feet do you think you might have?
Yeah, it's going to probably be between 10 and 13,000 square feet over 3 floors. And the new location is right on the Fraser River. If you're standing behind the distillery in the Mural Park,
yeah,
and you turn just a little bit to the south and threw a softball as far as you could, if you have a decent arm, it would land right there. It's been used last year as a parking lot for that area. The bridge over the Fraser would be immediately behind the new Arts Center. And so what we envision, and people will see this in the diagram, is folks could walk over that bridge and they would encounter the outdoor spaces of the center, which would have some sculptures and sitting areas, even a small performing area. And then the center would be a 3-story building behind it. The first floor, about 50% of it would be parking, so that we meet our obligations there with the community. And it is considered to be a bit of the anchor or the magnet for the development that the town of Fraser would like to do on Clayton Court. As people who are familiar with the area may know, a downtown development authority was just approved, of which we would be a part. And that authority, we hope, is not only a source of guests, residents, et cetera, because the first floor retail, second and third floor residential concept will be common there, but the center would be the anchor that would pull people all hours of the day into that area as well, and of course serve the rest of the community. You know,
I'm just going to plant the seed here. It'd be a great place for KFFR.
Yeah, I don't disagree one bit.
That's very cool. Talk about some of the programming.
Although you have pretty palatial space right here.
We do. We're going to need at least this much room, maybe a little more. Maybe a 4th floor.
There you go.
But talk about the programming you're anticipating. So is the performing arts space, is that going to be kind of a black box where you could shift things around, do theater, do live shows, do a reception?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, the best analog for that is the Arts Campus at Willis up in Basalt, which for the portion of the center there that is for performing arts, is a big rectangle, and it has a stage in the middle of it, but it's incredibly flexible, and so they can fill that area with chairs. They can take all the chairs out, and it can be a giant dance floor. They could put tables in the round there, all of which affect how many people can be accommodated in the space. Sure. But our vision for that is we want to do something similar so that we can accommodate a wide variety of performances. And it could be plays, it could be community theater, it could be visiting troops, it could be music, et cetera, et cetera. We don't want to be limited by that, and we want to make sure, by the way, that it's acoustically dynamite. So we are adamant that when we build it, we have acoustical engineers help us to design that space.
What other types of programming would be elsewhere in the building?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked, because it's not just about shows.
Right.
And you know, as most people would expect, that would happen in the evening and on weekends. But when I talk about a community hub, this center would have at least 2 studio spaces, one for what I call the messy arts, things like clay, glass making, print making, etc., and then one for the cleaner arts, painting, etc. We'd also have a maker space, and what I mean by a maker space is a space that's dedicated to more of the electronic creative arts. So think videography, think computer-generated design, things
animation.
Animation. That people are increasingly very interested in. I was just jurying for an art show, the Winter Park Alpine Art Affair, and one of the artists submitted some incredible fractal geometry artwork that was just jaw-dropping. So we want to be able to accommodate that. And we know that art is ever evolving, so we expect that there will be room for those evolutions. The other thing that we'll have room for there is show space. So if a local organization wants to have a trade show, if people need to have a wedding or a reception of some sort, we would be able to accommodate that. That would help us pay the bills, which would, is always a good thing, but also gives the community yet another option in that regard. So those types of things. The last thing I'll mention is a gallery, and that gallery would be a place primarily for Fraser Valley artists to sell their creations. And we hope that would be a real destination for both our residents and our visitors when they want to find gifts for their loved ones, et cetera, to find the creative fruit of our valley.
That all sounds really wonderful. I wonder how much it would cost to build a 13,000 square foot building like you're discussing.
Yeah, so that answer is somewhere, depending on how fancy we make it, somewhere between $8 and $13 million bucks. Mm-hmm. We have over $1.5 million so far raised. We are partnering with a number of regional foundations and wealthy individuals and so forth right now in kind of a silent campaign. As by virtue of doing this, we're starting to come out of the woodwork and talk about it a bit more, and we have every intention of coming to the public in a much more public campaign in the near future. But our goal right now is to raise about $3 to $4 million bucks.
There he goes.
Steve's dog is excited about our guest.
He is. Chooch, take it easy, bud.
There you go, bud.
Nanda's here, so he gets excited when he sees Nanda.
And so once we hit $3 to $4 million bucks, which I actually think we are within a year of doing because of some things we have in the works. We will sit down, get final construction drawings, put that out for the community to make comment on and so forth. And there are a number of vehicles available in the state of Colorado, including a bond program and a low-interest rate loan program for organizations like ours that would enable us to borrow the remainder of what we need, build the building, and then start paying down the debt using the revenues that we would pull in from the facility. So it's closer than it seems.
You're listening to Public Affairs for Grand County. I'm Steve Skinner here with Steve Fitzgerald, president of the board of Fraser Valley Arts. Their website is fraservalleyarts.org, and we are talking about the Fraser Center for the Arts, which is a planned arts extravaganza here in little old Fraser, Colorado. Talk about, give me your, I would love to hear your 30-second, you're talking to a person that's a believer in the arts, somebody that loves the community, somebody with deep pockets. Let's hear the elevator speech that you have less than 1 minute of this person's attention before they get off the elevator. What do you say to them? And they're out there listening right now, so hey, this could be it.
We hope they're out there listening, and naming rights are available.
Of course they are.
I'm serious. So the short pitch is that the arts can be a catalyst in our community. Fraser in particular is a gemstone that has never been polished. The Fraser Center for the Arts is viewed by both the town and many of us involved in this project as being the catalyst for driving a lot of progressive and positive development in our town. Development's happening whether we like it or not. And it could be the magnet that makes the new Fraser the kind of ideal place to live, because we already have great outdoor recreation. What we don't have is ways to amuse yourself inside. And as we all know, particularly for 6 months of the year, sometimes 7, especially right now when it was snowing when I walked in here, there is a need for other things to do. So this center could provide that. It could provide the sales tax revenue that the town needs in order to prosper and manage its growth. And then lastly, it could be a place for our community, for our young people, our old people, everybody in between, residents and guests, to grow and develop skills that are either for their own personal benefit or could become a career.
Bravo. So if somebody's out there listening right now, they want to go take you to lunch, what's the best way to reach you?
Best way to reach me is right on FraserValleyArts.org. We have contact information. I'm available at sfitz88@me.com. And you can easily reach out to me through either of those means, and we'll be happy to tell you more about what's going on, even if it's just interest in, you don't have to be somebody who wants to throw money at us. I want to be clear about that. We are trying to engage the community about the concept, and we're open to talk to anybody.
Has the town's stance on this changed since we've changed mayors and we've changed town managers?
I would say the only thing that's changed is that it's even firmer the town is even firmer in its support for what we're doing. I will be the first person to tell you that Brian, our new mayor, and Michael, our town manager, who are both relatively new to their roles, could not be more helpful in this effort. Sarah Wick, who has been there forever, who I understand has a little bit of a DJ role here at times. Yeah. What's her DJ name?
DJ Wiki.
There you go. I'm going to just start calling her that all the time.
You should.
She has been a real partner in all of this work, both through the Public Arts Committee and as we formed the not-for-profit. So the citizenry should know that the town's leadership is very much involved in this effort, even though Fraser Valley Arts is independent of the town. They are supportive and have become more so. And I would point to a couple of things. That one, the town of Fraser was our very first major donor financially. And
did they provide the land?
And then they have not only earmarked the land, but recently transferred the ownership to the not-for-profit. So Fraser Valley Arts, for consideration of about $1, was given the land that I mentioned earlier, right on the river. It is earmarked for a center, and that thing is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's helped us with all the other applications we're doing because it gives us credibility.
I'm curious about the latest election was very divided on a bunch of stuff. This community is divided about lots of things. Development is one of them. How's the vibe in the community? Are you feeling like a great deal of support? Is it 50-50? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question, Steve, because the way I look at that, when we do the Mural Festival, when we have Plein Air, particularly the Sunday event where it's open to the public, we put all these pictures up of the Future Center, and we talk to the community. Whoever wants to see and hear and talk about it, we talk to them. And I would say it's 90% positive, would like to see this happen. And to the point where we get leads on fundraising from those conversations. What I also hear, and I think you see in the voting, is there is a disdain for some of the ways in which the town has changed.
Right.
And I get that there's those two different camps. Yeah. And I'm somebody who's been a part-timer in this valley for 20-odd years, a full-timer for the last 7 or 8. And I'm a homeowner and stuff. And there are things that I love and I kind of rue when I see them changing. At the same time, I think most of us in this community would agree that having a place like this would be a net positive, especially if we're not building it on the backs of the citizenry in terms of taxation and so forth.
You look at any historical Colorado community, oftentimes the Opera House or the Art Center is really at the heart of everything.
Yeah. I mean, I remember you telling me about doing and producing a play in the Roaring Fork Valley, and I can't. I mean, I was just looking the other day at a similar troupe that's in Carbondale. I would love to see a Fraser Valley troupe that does local programming with local humor aimed at local interests, in addition to bringing in somebody who's a traveling artist, to enrich our experience in living here.
Steve, you build it, they will come.
I think so.
Is there anything else I forgot? We only have a minute left.
In the last minute, I would just like to mention that a couple of organizations, the Grand Foundation, the Town of Fraser, and Rendezvous Colorado and DAO Architecture have been enormously supportive, as have nearly a dozen private individuals. All of them are our major donors. This community owes them their thanks because they have given us the means in terms of seed capital to get to this point. And we are very aggressively building our philanthropy effort. So thank you also to KFFR for all you've done to help us along the way.
Well, we're on board. We'd love to see it happen, and I think it's very exciting what you guys are doing. Once again, Steve Fitzgerald, president of the board of Fraser Valley Arts, and talking about the Fraser Center for the Arts. I kind of blew past my out cue, so if there's anything else, did I forget anything?
No, sir. I think we covered the list.
Okay, that's great. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate your time. Good luck with everything. People can go to FraserValleyArts.org to learn more. Steve is available if you want to take him out to lunch, and he'll give you the